Morning, everyone. Nice to see everyone. Thanks so much for being here, Jaclyn and Sean. So we're going to kick things off with a little get to know you, if that's okay.
Let's do it.
So I'm from Yelp, and we love local businesses. So I'm curious, Jaclyn and Sean, if you could tell us what your favorite local business is in your hometown.
All right, I'm going to pick one here because I lived here for 13 years. So there's an awesome Italian spot called De Parma. I lived over in Winthrop. I think there's a second location as well. It used to be BYOB. I think post-COVID they actually put a little bar in the back. But amazing Italian food, which is my all-time favorite.
Awesome, thanks.
So I thought about this, and I realized I chose a pizza place, not Papa John's. So I apologize to Jaclyn, though. We don't really have many of those here, and she's not my client, so I'm not that worried about it. But so I have a 10 and a 14-year-old. They don't have the most evolved, eating palates that she'll ever meet. So pizza is pretty critical. And there's a place called the Pizza Wagon in Saxonville. It's pretty close to my house, and I'm surprised the Pizza Wagon had pretty good food. They do. And my kids were pretty happy with it, and they're the nicest people, so I chose the Pizza Wagon, not Papa John's. Sorry. But I'm sure
Sorry, I know where we are. We're in the Northeast.
So yeah.
If anyone wants to develop some Papa John's restaurants.
Awesome, thank you. And also, second question, what are you both binge watching today? If you were to go home today in this hurricane weather and watch a show, what would it be?
Sex and the City just got reloaded onto Netflix, so I started it over from day one.
I just finished Loudermilk, so I just watched Loudermilk on Netflix, really good, and I started watching Manhunt on Netflix. I mean on Apple. But Netflix I always have to also apply it, so Netflix, Loudermilk's really good.
Awesome, all good choices. Okay, getting a little bit more personal, can you describe yourself in 3 words or less? If you want to start, Jaclyn.
Enthusiastic, loyal, and hustler.
I love that.
Better than mine. I had mine as reserved, curious, and tall.
Perfect. I like that. And one more, get to know you. Can you fill in the blank? When I'm not at work, I like to
Travel.
Walk my dog. I like to read. I'm a nerd.
Awesome. What are you reading right now?
I'm reading a book about the new geography of space. I'd actually recommend it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so talking a little bit about our topic, brand positioning, and a few other things today. Jaclyn, we know Papa John's recently launched some new brand positioning. We're going to check out a sizzle, and then we'd love you to tell us more about it. So we are
All right.
ready?
Let's do it. We've been having fun with technology this morning.
Yeah, and this is going to get stuck into your heads, guys, so get ready for that.
Oh, this is
It's very sizzling.
Want to tell us what's happening?
Yeah, I'm like, I can take you on this journey. I'll give you guys a couple of beats on this. We just launched this 2 days ago. So it's, going on hour 72. So it's an amazing new brand platform for Papa John's. We have kind of been without a brand platform over the past 5 years, and so we needed to kind of jolt the brand back into some youthful energy, bring a little bit more cultural relevance, and we have for a very long time stood for better ingredients, better pizza, and we didn't want to walk away from that because it had a lot of equity, but it was a little bit dormant. And we kind of felt like it was wallpaper. People were like, oh yeah, that's Papa John's, but none of our consumers could really take it much further about well, what does that mean? And what does that mean to you? And so we did a massive agency review at the end of last year. And our partners at the Martin Agency, we actually landed this work in the pitch, which was pretty amazing. And so we've created kind of an elevated step-up line with Better Get You Some. So it's better ingredients, better pizza, better get you some. And it's taking the opportunity to take our equity and imbue it with a little emotion. There's probably not many people in this room that don't love pizza. It's quite an obsessive food. We think a lot about people, it's a bit of a cult following. They're very devoted to pizza and the type of pizza that they eat. You know, they argue over toppings more than you argue over what you put on like a burger or a chicken sandwich. Like they dress their dogs up in pizza costumes. Maybe you do that, Sean. Yeah, that's right. Drive a pizza wagon. And so we took a lot of that consumer devotion and wanted to just pull it through into an emotional campaign that actually reminds people what happens when you decide that crave hits you and it kind of washes over you and it's time to order pizza. And so there's actually a lot of emotion lacking in the category. It's quite a race to the bottom. And you're constantly trying to out-coupon one another in QSR pizza, and so everything starts to look the same. When you look out in the world, it's like price points just kind of knocking you over your head. And so we wanted to essentially pizzamatize people with the work. So I encourage you to check it out. Follow me on LinkedIn. I did a very long post about everything yesterday. But yeah, we're really excited to put it out in the world. We've partnered with Big Boy from Outkast, paying a little homage to the Atlanta community, which is where we're headquartered now. He's the voice on the track, which gives it a little bit of a nice cultural beat. And yeah, well, I hope you go back and watch. And you got to turn the volume up. The beat is where it's at.
Ended up Rob Ross looking too.
Yes, we do. There's a ton of little cultural Easter eggs in there. We have like a throwback of Shaquille dunking and breaking a backboard from NBA Jam back in the day. So that was important as well for it to kind of be a piece of entertainment.
Can I ask you a question on this? Because
Please.
I'm not supposed to interview you, but I'm going to. How hard was it to sell in a spot that doesn't, to your point, isn't, let's be honest, food porn, like your franchisee business, right?
Yeah.
Like, so to me, I watched that and I was like, holy shit, like to your point, like I think there's NBA jams, you know, all these cultural references.
Yeah.
You have Big Boy. You do show pizza, but it's not the star.
Right.
In my experience in
Yeah.
casual dining QSR is like that's really hard.
Yeah. It was pretty difficult, but we just had to go on a very thoughtful journey to bring people along. We are 85% franchise owned. And that's really important partnership to us because we got to make sure that they love the work as much as we do because it's going to help them sell more pizzas and open more restaurants on any given day. And so you kind of have to learn how to bring people along piece by piece. I think what's great is we came in on January 2nd and we started having little interim meetings along the way to land the strategy with them so they understood, like, we're still going to help you drive sales overnight, but we have to start to build this brand over time, and you can't do that with, like, all food porn all the time. Like, you have to put a little bit more of a human touch and some of that cultural relevance into the work. So I think now that the work is out there, we got a ton of, like, love notes yesterday from our franchisees, which doesn't always happen. So far, it's working.
Awesome. Thanks, Jaclyn. I would encourage you guys to watch the video, and if you do, you'll know what you'll be ordering late night tonight. It's very catchy. So shifting over to Sean and thinking about Mediahub and that brand, as most of you probably know, named Adweek's U.S. Agency of the Year, which is awesome. Congratulations. So tell us a little bit about how the team works to develop and maintain such a strong brand at Mediahub.
Well, I think it starts with that challenger mentality. It's something that, frankly, Mullen had, Alex and Kristen Cavallo had adopted, what was that, 15 years ago, probably. We took it into media, and I think it works almost even better in the media landscape because there's so much of sameness in that marketplace. It's a lot of marketplace-driven conversation, and we try to bring more of that creativity, innovation, thinking at the forefront. And I think the time period, excuse me, today where there's so much change, I think there's a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty for clients, and for us, we're just saying, you know what, you need to lead with a challenger mindset. So it's less about, I think it started with JetBlue being outspent by its competition as our anchor client. Now today we talk about our clients who are, you know, I think a lot like what Jaclyn's talking about, and the reason I asked that question is just, are you brave? Because you need to be. You need to embrace, you know, innovation, creativity, and that's been our kind of anchor personality. And we have a lot of very passionate people, sometimes too passionate, that, you know, have really embraced that and run with that. And it goes from, you know, the top down, the bottom up in our organization, that this is what we truly reward you for in this business. Not just did you make the client happy, not just did you get a great rate, not just did you deliver a plan with great outcomes, but, you know, did we actually, you know, change the reframe, the thinking around media in today's landscape. So that's been our kind of, you know, center of gravity, and I think that's, you know, felt throughout the organization.
Awesome. And I know I experience that when I work with Mediahub for sure on a daily basis. So I think we're all seeing that. So shifting gears a little to innovation, I'm going to start with you, Jaclyn, on this one. What digital innovation or platforms have you seen lately in the market that you're really impressed by, besides of your own at Papa John's? Anything inspiring you?
Yeah, I mean, we're taking a lot of cues from digital marketplace because that's where the majority of our business is done. And so I think we've been actually looking at a lot of places that have really smart journeys. We're always thinking about how do we get you like clicking as fast as we can and to conversion. So I think, you know, the Amazons of the world for sure. I think we study a lot of, you know, I love places like marketplaces like Etsy and to kind of see like what they're doing. I also think that, you know, I just joined Papa John's like a year and a half ago. I think we probably weren't doing the best job of even like embracing social commerce, and like, as obvious as it may seem, like we're spending a lot more time focused on TikTok and what we can do there. Like people can go straight from their phone and order in our app. And so I think a lot of those like connection points, which might sometimes seem obvious, just we didn't have them all kind of connecting the dots. And so I think we've tried to shift a little bit of our mindset of not like, oh, we have a site where you can go order pizza. Like, how do we actually turn that into a true commerce platform and a marketplace? So we like bring people in and bring them along. And so our team on the brand side's been working a ton with our digital team to think about like when they land on the site, you know, how do we make sure they don't drop out of the flow? And we're looking a lot at like, is it about the UX? Is it about the creative that entrances them from the beginning? And then how do we create little unique touch points along the way that kind of excite and entertain? And then you also think about places like when you order from any platform, you have that like wait time where you're waiting, you know, you're waiting for your pizza to arrive, you're waiting for your food to arrive, and are there things you can do in the interim? And I don't know that we've quite cracked the code there, but I think it's interesting to look at a lot of, and there are partners like the delivery platforms, the Uber Eats and the DoorDashes of the world, studying a lot of what they're doing in digital as well.
Very cool, thank you. And Sean, on the Mediahub side, how would you say tech innovation and maybe weaving in AI, but not exclusive to that, being implemented across partners, and how are you guys bringing value to your clients?
Yeah, I think AI is interesting because it comes in kind of layers. You know, there's this underpinning layer that's occurring that we don't talk about a lot. Excuse me. I think every one of our partners, vendor friends have found an LLM in the last like 6 months, which is amazing. I didn't know everyone had so many LLMs, but like, you know, we've had machine learning in the background and automation occurring all the time for the last 15 years. I was telling someone recently that I was in search a long time ago, and we did our own gap bidding. You know, and that if you know what that is, you're like, you know, we manually determined, you know, if we should be the second or third bid, and like the machine took that over in, you know, 2008 or something like that, and the machine took over, you know, 10 more layers of that, and now we're just at a place where the machine's making a lot of decisions and doing a lot of testing, learning on its own, optimization on its own. So I think there's that kind of underpinning side of the industry that, frankly, moves the world in increments. And it's something a lot of our clients are focused on, and it matters. And I think that's what a lot of like Google and Amazon are doing really well. Then I think there's another layer of AI. Like we've been playing around with a tool that does real-time focus groups with AI assistants. And it's really fascinating. Like it helps you, like guide you through like, here maybe is what you're trying to do. These are some questions maybe you want to ask It might ask a question. It helps you like determine the results. It all happens within a few hours, and it gives you some incredible, like really credible insight that is a human plus machine approach. And I think that for me is the future of like really exciting things that we're bringing to clients, which is like here's some we're doing all the machine stuff, and it's important. We're optimizing, we're bidding, we're doing all those things that the machine does really well, targeting, but bringing these kind of really interesting insights, and then down the road, I think creative is just going to have an entire like revolution in the next 5 years. I think it's a little bit of a struggling place right now because the old model's still kind of hanging around. But as creative embraces this new world, I think it's going to bring some amazing work. We're starting to see a little bit of it, and I think it's going to change the conversation around advertising again to get out of this kind of platformy, cookieless. There's nothing wrong with that stuff. It's kind of a plumbing in a lot of ways, and it's important, like data analytics, first-party data, clean rooms, love all that stuff. But I think when we start talking about like, look at the output of all the stuff that we're kind of setting up, and I think that's going to be pretty amazing. The last thing I'll just say is we also, it's funny, we try to shy away from shiny objects. Like we didn't create an entire, team around, virtual reality or metaverse stuff. We did a little bit of it, but now we're kind of like, hey, remember those shiny objects from a couple of years ago? There's actually some interesting stuff quietly happening in the background that we've kind of forgotten about, like the metaverse. Major League Baseball actually broadcasted a game in the metaverse last year. I don't know if anyone really watched it, but it was interesting that they did it. I think Snap continues to do a great job. I know Wall Street doesn't always love them, but they do a great job with AR, and the amount of just kind of shopping and commerce that's occurring through a lot of AR lenses and things is actually pretty incredible, and that's quieter now than it has been in the past, but it's it used to get really shiny love, and now we haven't forgotten about those things. They're still really valuable tools that are growing. So I think we try to take that approach of fundamentals, recognizing there's some really cool stuff, and trying not to forget about the shiny objects of the past.
Very cool. And I agree about how far we've come. I remember not long ago presenting automated bidding to search teams, and people would look at you like you were absolutely out of your mind. So that was a very big leap, I think, for those folks, and to think about how long ago, how far we've come and not that long is interesting. Thanks, Sean. So thinking about data and consumer behavior, over to you, Jaclyn. What are your predictions for the next 12 months in QSR, and how do you think the use of first-party data will play into Papa John's strategy in that?
Yeah, prediction-wise, I think the QSR world is going to double, triple down on personalized experiences. We're seeing a ton of it in loyalty programs, rewards programs, doing more of that one-to-one, like what new unique experience can we bring to you? We're actually thinking a lot about this right now at Papa John's. I think that's going to be a lot of it. Like, how can you like cater to your customers and just kind of elevate the overall plan? Just because QSR is very crowded, and when everybody starts like running at trying to bring you in just because of a price point, like where we've struggled and why we're pushing this new work there, it's like you lose all the brand loyalty. And people have multiple delivery apps on their phones and multiple ordering apps at any time, and if they're price shopping, they don't really care about your brand, you're not going to win. And so that's why we wanted to like kind of double back on that. So I think being able to truly understand your customers is where that data is going to come in. We have an insane amount of first-party data at Papa John's, and I think for a while the brand spent a lot of time like marketing to anyone with a mouth that likes pizza, which is like basically the whole world. And so we weren't really like analyzing deeper beyond that and finding the different segments and audiences, and now we are, and that's like a lot of the backbone to where we landed with this new body of work and what we're continuing to do. And sometimes that feels like pretty obvious that like, why wasn't the brand doing it? But like it was working for a while, right? And then during the pandemic, it was really working because when everyone else had to figure out delivery, we already had it. And so like pizza really prevailed during those moments because we didn't have to figure anything out except just to keep the workers healthy, and make sure you didn't feel like your food arrived and it felt tampered with or anything. And so I do think that importance of customer first, which feels like an obvious statement, but like you got to put it at the forefront and understand who you're talking to, which if you look back at this body of work, like every little cultural nugget that we layered into the TV and the way that we're talking to our fans is super over intentional about reaching the people we want to touch. You know, we have millennial moms and dads are our core audience, but we also have an opportunity to stretch down and grab Gen Z, because a lot of Gen Zers right now, like, maybe don't have their favorite pizza brand, and we want to grab them now and have them kind of grow old with us as they start to have families and such, and kind of bring Papa John's along in their family. So I think all the audience segmentation work that we're doing, paired with the ability to punch it up a notch and find ways to personalize across those segments, is going to be our best path forward.
Very cool. Thanks, Jaclyn. And sort of along the same lines, Sean, you mentioned before that there is a need to reframe media as we move into the future. How do you see Mediahub leveraging data and tech in the next 12 months or so?
Yeah, well, I mean, IBG acquired Axiom, so that is a starting point for us, which is, you know, a huge benefit for us to have a data set that can augment a client in a cookieless world that's, you know, truly almost a universal ID. So that's a huge benefit for us, and one that we bring to a lot of client relationships. But then, you know, it's a big focus of ours to start with audience and talk about growth, and to say, you know what, who's your foundational, you know, data set. To Jaclyn's point, like, some clients have a wealth of data. We have travel clients. They generally have, you know, most of them have a lot of great information, great data on their clients. Then we have some CPG or manufacturing type clients who don't own that direct relationship, and we have to help them build it out and work a little bit more to build that out. So we always start with that foundational first party, like, what do you have to bring to the world? And then from there, it's about how do we grow, right? We have, our job is paid media. Who do we invest our dollars against? Which humans do we do that against? Because we can be addressable now. We can pick and choose and be intentional about who we're going to connect with through paid media, and we have to devise a strategy. And it's a big focus of ours, big starting point in our process of the way we work. So that's really important overall. And then, you know, just kind of working with a platform world and having that framing of a mindset versus channels, publications, like those exist, but every partner of ours now feels like a platform, right? They have an ID, you can API in, you can target, you know, with their first party data. There's privacy stuff, you know, there's a way to measure in there. So almost every single one of our partners isn't really a publisher as much as a platform that we have to work with, and we have to reframe our clients' thinking to be like, we're not really planning against channels or partners, we're planning against, yes, that how they consume across the screen or whatever matters, but we're actually going into the Amazon universe or the Disney ecosystem or the Netflix ecosystem, and we have to determine how to work within that the best way possible to get what we need, and then look at a full platform universe and say, this is our job now. And how does a consumer experience across those? What's the best way of going about it? And that's different from what we were doing 10 years ago when there was an on and offline world, or 20 years ago when, you know, it was something else. So it's just a reframing in that way, and data tech is the foundation of it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jaclyn and Sean, for sharing so many great insights. We have about 5 minutes, and we would love to take some questions if anyone has them. Does anyone have a question for Jaclyn or Sean? I know someone has a question. Drew.
Oh, there we go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a question. When you were developing the new brand platform, how important was it to you to include celebrity? Did you have options that didn't include a celebrity? And kind of what made you go in that direction?
Yeah. Listen, I think the power of celebrities or creator talent is actually quite valuable. I think what was important is that we came back as the brand and didn't need to lend itself to a figure. In the video work specifically, you know, like, we have great partnership with Shaquille and a bunch of other talent that we've worked through the social ecosystem this past year. But we didn't want the brand to be fixated on one single person. Where we felt like we could add that flair was the voice, which is why we went the musician route and landed with someone like Big Boy, because, you know, the audio kind of memorability of a song and the beat and a voice that people can connect to is something that we wanted to create with a bit of recognition and consistency for the brand, because we hadn't had that for a long time. And so that's where we felt like we could kind of put the touch on it without anchoring it on like one solo endorser.
Awesome, thanks. Go ahead.
Hey, Sean. So you talked about using AI in kind of research groups and things like that. Can you talk a little bit about how you guys are looking to use AI in creative, whether it's generative AI to make a lot of different versions? Just love to hear more about how you guys plan to use that.
Yeah, we don't really make creative, so what we do is we play a strategic role in it. We've been in the DCO world, we've been in creative for, I don't know, 15, 20 years, whatever it may be. That's come a long way, so working with those types of partners, Mediation, Flash Talking, Clutch, like some of those folks that are doing that, and it's starting to find its way, I think, beyond banners, which is the key thing, right? We always had some really great data that told us, wow, it's bad weather outside, and here's what the economy looks, and there's all these wonderful signals we will use, and they're like, here's a banner. And maybe you nudge someone into like converting or whatever. Now we can use that on a TV screen or in TikTok or wherever, where there's a more powerful influence. I think that's going to be the difference in the creative world. So for us, working with a lot of our clients saying, okay, who are the audiences we want to grow with? We start with our hypotheses. How can we work with the machine, so to speak, to determine the best way to show the right creative, and then work with the creative agency and the client on that side of it. So we're more in that zone of like, this is where we think the opportunity is. We can show you the scale of the audience, we can show the opportunity with this audience and give you recommendations on where to do that, and maybe some of the insights that can help lead to great creative. And then we kind of hand it over and say, okay, someone else needs to come build this. We have, obviously, being an IPG, have partners to do that, but our focus is a little bit more on who are you trying to target and how, and then focus there. And then I think that's where the opportunity is really going to be, is that coming together of the science that we bring to the table and data we bring to the table, plus what creative can do, and then with the client, you hear about it like, having Big Boy from Atlanta is a great signal for the brand of Papa John's, right? Like, Pizza Hut's not going to do that for obvious reasons, so it matters to them to have that. So bringing all that together, I think, is where the real opportunity is.
Awesome, thank you for the question. And I'm guessing we have time for maybe one, maybe two more. Yeah, go ahead.
Jaclyn, phenomenal spot. When I saw it 3 days ago, my head was so it works. But as you think about the balance, you have an incredible spot. But as you think about the balance between performance versus brand media, when you have a spot like that, how are you starting to evaluate just the ways it's performing?
That's how it's performing out in the world.
Just more so like programmatic versus just above the line.
Yeah. Listen, I think that's our upper funnel awareness play, right? But like we know that we still have to get like hardcore pizza orders out in the world. I think the way that we're doing it though is we're just taking some of like, you could there's like 21 different shots in that spot of like the food and everything. And so what we did is we thought about how can we actually start to chop that up and very intentionally, we have a rabid fan following with our garlic sauce. There's a lot of like goodness with that in there. How do you start to chop that up and hit them in some of the lower funnel places that get them to start to turn and convert a little bit better? And to Sean's point, interestingly enough, we haven't played a lot with DCO yet as a brand. And so that's going to be something new for us that we're going into. So we're actually, every time we go to create content, we're thinking a lot about like, how can we slice and dice this to the best of our ability so we can like push it through a bunch of the lower funnel channels as well, where we know that we might need to attack someone with a little bit of what we call, the ooey gooey, but like nail it with a deal on top of it, because we need to drive those sales over time. So we're thinking about it, from top to bottom.
Awesome.
Great. Douglas with RTL, pleasure to meet you all. Jaclyn, my question is, how do you translate the work that you're doing here internationally?
Oh, that's a good question. Papa John's is international, in case anyone didn't know. We're actually working together with our global marketing team. So I have a counterpart that runs the whole international business, and they actually are going to work under this umbrella as well. So thus far, I think we've translated this into 4 different languages to date. They're running about a month behind us. China actually just broke like yesterday, but they're going to take it across the globe within the next 30 days and use some different artist translations. So like we use Big Boy, they'll find other voices via translation to actually launch it across the globe in different markets. So when we kind of invested in this idea, we made sure the global team was part of the conversations to ensure that it could resonate overseas as well.
Awesome. So huge thanks to Jaclyn and Sean for joining us today. Thank you guys for the awesome questions, and we'll pass it off to the next group.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.